with love that gets a bitch. You gotta mix it, child. Fix it, child. You must be love.
Here we go. As the pilot and co-pilot of U.S. Airways Flight 1549, our first guests managed to feat unprecedented in aviation history, an emergency water landing which saved the lives of every passenger and crew member on board. Please welcome two heroes, Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger III and First Officer Jeffrey Skiles. Gentlemen, come on out. Thank you very much, and thank you again, and thank you again. What do I call you? I call you Captain? Do I call you Chesley? Do I call you Sully?
Well, you know, with a name like Chesley, Sully is just going to happen.
All right. And Jeffrey, I call you...
Jeff.
Jeff? All right, good. Welcome to the program. Tell me about how many hours you have as a pilot.
Well, actually, you know, Jeff has a few more than I do.
Is that right? How many do you have?
He's just over 20,000. I'm just under 20,000.
Whoa. So a combined time, a seat time flying, 40,000 hours. And in that time, individually or collectively, any emergency circumstances prior to this day?
A few. Nothing like this.
Yeah.
In fact, before the 15th, I'd never experienced an actual engine failure in an airplane I'd ever flown for 42 years.
In all of those hours, in all of those years flying. Well, and how about you, Jeff?
I've had an engine failure, but just one at a time.
Yeah. Well,
Good plan.
but I think that speaks to the obvious, which is aviation is an incredibly sophisticated, incredibly safe way to travel, and two guys who have got a combination of that number of hours to have experienced minor glitches is just testament to that, isn't it?
It really is, and I expected that to continue.
Yeah. Now, when you took off, the whole thing, we have the timeline here. We'll go through the timeline in a little bit. But tell us about the aircraft. A320, big airplane,
yes.
Made by Airbus.
Yes.
And is it comparable to like a 737, more or less?
Yeah, this one is more or less. We fly 3 different variants, and the largest variant, the A321, is about the size of a Boeing 757.
Mm-hmm. And anything in particular about this aircraft that lend itself to what you needed to do with it?
You know, it's a fly-by-wire airplane. It has a lot of computer protections for the flight envelope. But I think it was a pretty conventional flying airplane in this episode.
And plenty of wing space for standing passengers in the river?
Yeah. That was
not a problem there. No pushing, no shoving. We got plenty of space. And have you heard from the Airbus people about this event? Have they talked to you at all about it?
Well, you know, I understand that we have been extended, the entire crew, an invitation to visit the manufacturer in France.
And do these things, are they designed to float as long as this one floated?
We were very glad that this one remained intact.
Yeah, right.
And did.
Yeah. And was there something that a mistake after it's in the water? Was there a mistake that could have been made that would have violated the integrity of the fact that it would float?
I think one of the aft entry doors opened a little bit, and it was difficult to reclose and get the seal to keep water out.
And as I understand it, and we'll talk to the women who were the flight attendants, that actually an aggressive, eager passenger, and that would have been me, by the way. Let me at that damn door. Got to the door and
I think it was Steve Martin who did that.
But that would have... And could that have potentially made the task of rescue even harder if that door had remained open?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just an unbelievable thing to conjure. And the number of people, 155. You're at an altitude of, what, 3,200 feet? Shortly.
I'm told that was the highest height that we attained.
Yeah. So the engines are still functioning up to 3,200 feet.
I think we probably continued beyond the point where the engines failed a little bit higher and before we began to descend.
Right. Just the momentum was able to give you a little more altitude.
3,000 feet is where we're at.
And in terms of birds, are you alerted by anybody on the ground that there have been reports of flocks of geese or birds in the air, so look out, or does that not happen?
The only reports that we get are usually routine reports to in general be on the lookout.
Right.
But there was no specific warning about this.
Right. And who makes the jet aircraft, the jet engines on this aircraft?
It's made by a consortium of GE and CFM in France.
Right. And these machines are so sophisticated, and the tolerance is micro billionths of an inch, literally. Well, how is it that a bird can cause one to shut it down?
Well, a bird's, it's a big bird. And these engines spin very fast. It knocks a couple of those fan blades out, and it's just the vibration that tears the engine apart.
And I'm sure people have looked into this, but can they be affixed with the screens to protect the birds from being ingested by the blades?
That will cause a dramatic amount of drag on the front of the engine, and you probably have to have a much more powerful engine to make up for it.
Right.
But a lot of people have written to us and suggested that.
Yeah.
I'm the first one. I've gotten a lot of letters about that.
I see. I know what you're saying. You're saying I'm a kook.
No. Who knows? But complete with drawings, I've gotten letters about that.
I got some drawings upstairs of this. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for being here, and I kind of feel you must be. Are you tired of going around and telling your story, or is this all part of working through it emotionally?
I'm more than tired of telling this story.
Yeah.
Hang in there. Poor Jeff told me in the days afterward, I just want my old life back.
Yeah. And you guys, this happened on a Thursday. You guys just met in the cockpit, I guess, on the Monday of that
Monday.
week.
Yeah, we had not met before.
And now have bonded forever. And it's a good thing you seem to get along. Yeah, I don't know. And I think that, anytime somebody's, even in a small traffic accident, you go into a bit of shock. Were you guys in shock? Are you still in shock? Is there a post-traumatic stress we're dealing with here?
Each of us, all five of us, have experienced some of those typical symptoms. It's just human nature. You have trouble sleeping. You have the flashbacks, the distracted thoughts, all those things.
Yeah. Jeff, how are you doing?
Oh, absolutely. But of course, going to the inauguration and the Super Bowl, and of course, David Letterman helped you get over that.
It's a big three. That's right. Well, we do what we can. We'll be right back with Captain Sullenberger and First Officer Jeffrey Skiles. Yeah. Well, let's, do you mind going through this again? 3:25:48 p.m., Flight 1549 begins its takeoff roll at LaGuardia. At that point, everything's fine.
Yeah, normal.
And you're headed for Charleston? Is that the destination?
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
3:27:01 p.m. This is a minute 13 seconds at 3,200 feet. So this happened like a minute after you're taken off. Bird strike loses power in both engines.
You've got more information than we have. This is the first we're hearing of this.
Yeah. Oh, I got the whole thing.
Do you have two of those?
Yeah, I can get you a copy of this. All right, so at that point, you take over the aircraft, and then it's your job to try and restart those engines. Is that correct?
That's true.
Yeah.
I failed.
And gave the whole mission a black eye.
It's hard to get good help.
Yeah. But typically, can you restart an engine after it's hit a bird or not?
We haven't hit a lot of birds in our past to really have a lot of experience with it.
Yeah. So you're doing everything you can. And you now are responsible for flying the aircraft, looking for a place to land. Is that pretty much how it works there, Sully?
As the captain, no matter what happens, is always your fault.
Yeah.
So
3:27, 36 p.m. This is a minute 48 seconds into the flight. You contact ATC, Air Traffic Control. This is Cactus. What is Cactus 1549? You said 39. What is Cactus? What does that call sign designate?
You know, some companies use the actual company name as the radio call sign, and some companies use some other word. And that's the call sign that we've been using for a while.
Okay, so now you're still at about 3,200 feet, and you know you got no power, and you're thinking you can get back to LaGuardia. Is that a reasonable thought or not?
Well, we were considering every possibility at that moment. This happened suddenly, and the only two nearby airports were LaGuardia or Teterboro.
Sure.
And we quickly determined that neither was an option, that we were at too low an altitude, too far from the runway, at too low a speed, and didn't have enough energy to glide back there. And I couldn't afford to be wrong. Trying to make a runway we couldn't reach could have had catastrophic consequences.
Absolutely. So this is a combination of great fortune and great skill merging in to avoid one catastrophic circumstance, as you point out.
I was very grateful for the outcome.
Yeah. What is your airspeed at this point? And do these things glide at all? There must be some bit of a glide ratio, right?
Yeah, they glide pretty well. And in a normal landing, you're gliding, usually with some engine thrust. So we were descending at faster than a normal rate because we had no engine thrust.
Right. And the sensation for the people in back, would it have been, oh, the bottom is dropping out, or would it have seemed more or less like a normal approach?
Initially, the thrust loss was so sudden, you could feel the slowing of the forward momentum of the airplane.
Yeah.
But after that, we settled into a gentle glide.
A gentle glide. Oh, my God. Okay, then at 3:28 p.m., snacks and beverages were served. No, that's not. I'm sorry. So right away, everybody knows there's trouble. Everybody is focused on you guys, and you're cleared to get back to LaGuardia. And you said, we may end up in the Hudson.
Yes.
Yeah. 3:29, Sullenberger clears the George Washington Bridge by roughly 1,000 feet. Oh, my God.
It's better than 0 feet.
Yeah.
Well, sure. Yeah, anything's fine. Now, if this had been a normal landing on a runway, you would not have had time enough to prepare for that landing. Is that correct? If it was a normal landing, you would have not had time.
Oh, I think we would have, but this was definitely a time-critical operation.
Right, right. And at what speed now? You're 1,000 feet above the George Washington Bridge. You're getting ready to land. What is critical? I've always been told that if you land on water, there's a good likelihood that the rear part of the fuselage will snap up because of the impact. Is that a fantasy? Is that a myth? Is that nothing?
Well, you know, we've all seen the video of the 767 ditching off the coast of Africa, and I was determined to avoid that. So it was important that when we touched the water, the wings be exactly level, that the nose be slightly up, that the descent rate be acceptable, and that we be just above our minimum flying speed, but not below it.
And that flying speed is just about what when you hit the water?
You know, I wouldn't want to guess. I haven't seen all the data, but it would be in the 150 to 160 mile per hour range.
And landing on a cement or hard surface, you're landing at just about 130, 140, right in that range?
No, this would be near a typical landing speed for that weight.
Near typical landing. And so then you roll to a stop, and you can use as much as a mile of actual runway with one of these planes?
Exactly.
And when the thing hit, did it skip? Did it bounce off the water, or did it just kind of hit and then snug in?
You know, I have seen the video, and it seems like it stayed on the water and the nose gradually came down.
Wow. Could you do it again? I'll pay for the fuel. Let's try it. And what now? Your job is pretty much done. You can't get the engines restarted. What are you doing in the right seat? What are your activities at this point?
I'm pretty much just paralyzed with terror at that point. Yes.
And you train for the water landing, but I'm told that among pilots, the water landing is almost a bit of a water landing, but good luck. It doesn't happen much.
The training's pretty minimal. We have to every year you have to review something. Well, one of the big things that sticks in my mind is they say you have to land on the back side of a swell. I have no idea which side of the swell is the back side. Fortunately, there weren't any swells in the Hudson River that day.
Backside of a swell.
Backside.
Now, I'm guessing that the fact that it was the Hudson, although it's pretty good current running south there, it probably better than landing in ocean water, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Except it stinks.
Hey! Oh, my God. Yeah, so the whole thing began and ended in about 10 minutes, and then now the first ferry boat, I guess, to arrive there took about 4 or 5 minutes to get there. They tell me that you were actually looking for a shipping activity to have people get right on top of you. The rescue effort, flawless, had to have been flawless, right?
I understand that they have monthly drills.
Is that
now
right?
Since September 11th to do just this sort of thing, and that was crucial.
So again, it's another factor that just fell right into place for everybody.
By the time Jeff and I left the aircraft, there were already boats around the airplane.
Yeah, and was it true that you turned over to Sully and said, you know, we practice these, but we know it's impossible, but you just landed on the water?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, man, what a feeling that must have been. What a feeling. But then again, kind of the nightmare sort of resets itself. We got to get 155 people out of this thing. But you say that typically it would float long enough to support that.
If it's intact, and we were able to land and keep the airplane intact.
Right. But it did rupture. The holes in the fuselage were opened by the impact, is that correct?
Underneath, yes.
Yeah. And how hard was the impact for you guys? Was it?
Hitting the water is hard. It's more of an impact than touching a runway.
Yeah. Oh, my God. All right, we'll be right back. And we're going to bring out the rest of the crew of the Flight 1549, everybody.
Been home and on the road. I've been down before. Don't carry me too far away. Big old jet.
All right, here we go. Our next guests were also vitally instrumental in saving the lives of all 155 people on board. Please welcome 3 more heroes, the flight attendants from U.S. Airways Flight 1549, Doreen Welsh, Donna Dent, and Sheila Dale. Kids, come on out. Standing O. Thank you for all being here, Doreen, Donna, and Sheila. How long have you been flying for U.S. Airways?
38 years.
38 years?
26.
26?
28.
Oh, my goodness. And, yeah. Again, anything for anybody close to an emergency in all those years you've been flying?
Nothing that can even be compared to this, so I'm going to say no.
Yeah, this is a pretty high bar to be shooting for. And this doesn't have anything to do with landing in the Hudsons, but passengers have just gotten worse and worse, haven't they? Just aren't they awful? Just pushing and shoving and lousy and mean and nasty. Well, perhaps you can't comment. How's everybody doing? We doing all right?
Wonderful.
Yeah. And was there trauma, shock, post-traumatic stress? Have we experienced some of that? Were you in shock at the time? Didn't know it? What was the feeling like?
Still
Anybody?
in shock, I think.
You're
I
still
mean, I'm
in
on the
shock?
David Letterman show.
Yeah. That's the worst of it.
I'm this close to you.
Yeah. All right, now help me out here. How was the responsibility of the inside of the aircraft divided up? You were in the tail section toward the end there,
Lucky
and
me.
You guys were closer to the front. Yeah.
They were-
So we're literally 3 minutes into this flight. Did somebody know something was wrong? What did you experience?
Well, I thought that, like we'd said on a lot of other shows, that we hit something or an engine went out or something.
So you
and-
could hear it. There was an audible. There was impact.
Oh, yeah. And then I thought we would just circle around and Sully would take us back to LaGuardia and we'd get it fixed and then go.
Right. And that pretty much what everybody. Yeah.
That's what
Because
we
this
hoped.
was out of the routine, but something that was, in your minds, fixable, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then what happened to change that impression?
Well, I whispered to Donna, I said, what was that? And she said, I think it was a bird strike, which I'd never experienced. So she had just the way the airplane was just kind of gliding along, and it was very quiet. So it was like, okay, this is, maybe could be bad.
Right. Were the passengers aware of the initial impact? Did they hear it as well?
I don't know that they heard the impact. They definitely heard it was silent.
Yeah, yeah.
It was heard the silence.
And whenever I fly, even without a bird strike, it's always near panic for me. How did the group behave immediately?
They had a well-behaved group. Not that mine were. They were more nervous and more anxious, and they started the cell phone calls. And I understood that. Because
screaming, crying, wailing.
Not in the front part of the
People
cabin.
running around. Anybody?
No, they were all in their seats.
it was quick, so everybody was, still strapped in.
Yeah. So one has to believe that in that circumstance, everybody in that plane, with the exception of you five here, probably went into an immediate version of some kind of shock or terror alert. Probably, right?
Probably.
Yeah. So you secure the cabin. What are your responsibilities now when you realize we're making an emergency landing of some form?
There wasn't time.
There was no time.
And we were still secured we just took off, so they hadn't started their iPods, and I hope they had,
Yeah. So are you folks still in jump seats? Is that where you guys are? And waiting now procedurally to hear from the cockpit? Is that what happened? Because you're not allowed to talk to the cockpit in a situation like this?
We're not supposed to.
Yeah. So what was the first thing you heard from the cockpit?
Brace for impact.
Brace for impact. Now, ever hear that before coming out of a cockpit?
No, not ever.
Ever hear that in any other aspect of your lives? I don't know. They take this show away from me. But brace for impact is something you've trained for. You know what that means. And so then what do? You start screaming, brace, brace, brace. Is that what happens? Yeah. And did the passengers know how to respond to that?
Mine did, which was, I had the rowdy group earlier, but they did know how to respond.
Right.
Because they were all in there. So somebody read their card or did something.
What is it about... Boy, and people will be reading that in the event of a water landing card now, like it's the Old Testament, won't they? But what is it about your group? I'm getting the sense that you had the problem kids back there. What?
Well, the back of the airplane was always more active and fun. I don't know. They got on first. They were resting. You know how? Remember years ago, whenever the smoking section was back there, they put those little signs. Front half was quiet, and everybody else was having drinks and cigarettes. They were all crazy. It's still like that without the smoking.
Well, that's great. All right, we'll be right back with the crew of Flight 1549, everybody.
Taking a thing you want from me.
Sheila Dale, Donna Dent, and Doreen Welsh. Did anybody of the three of you know that you were landing in water?
No.
I thought we were headed back to the airport, and the water kept getting closer, but that's the way it is, around
At LaGuardia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was waiting for hit the runway and.
Yeah. So when did the realization of what actually happened hit?
When Sully said evacuate. And we looked out the door and saw the water.
Right. That must have been incredibly disorienting, especially after the trauma of what had preceded it, right?
But we could have still been on a runway. There's a lot of water.
Yeah. So you were hopeful that this was going to be water surrounding a puddle. That's right. Might have been a puddle. And so in the back, is that where the door was opened? One of your buddies opened the back door?
One of my people.
Yeah. What happened there?
Well, I got up and looked out, and had no idea and saw the water and had that. I'd take the 1 second.
Yeah.
And then when I turned around to start directing everybody, she just bulldozed by me, and I'm panicked, and I do understand. But I mean, she just started grabbing everything and cracked that door open, and I just grabbed her and tossed her aside. And
there you go.
something I've dreamed about for 38 years. Unfortunately, wrong circumstances.
Now, we talked earlier to Sully and Jeff about this, but was that breach of the door potentially catastrophic? Should that door have remained closed to support the integrity of the buoyancy of the aircraft?
Well, I just know it should have stayed closed to keep the water out.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that. Yeah, I see. Yeah. 5 of you here, scared, not scared. You go into automatic, it becomes cursory, it becomes part of the training. What happens? What are the feelings?
Concerned.
Concerned?
Busy.
Yeah, and busy. And you're back there?
Petrified.
Petrified. Yeah, because I understand that you were waist, chest deep in water, and in the front it wasn't quite so bad. Is that correct?
No.
Yeah. And was that because your friend had opened the door, that there was...
Yes, Dave.
So without that door being opened, you wouldn't have had the sensation of drowning imminently. Oh, my God. Wow, see, that's what I'm talking about, passengers. I mean, what is wrong with them? So how do we now get 155 people out of this aircraft?
Well, Dawn and Sheila can tell you, they did their part up front with the rafts, what they were supposed to do. They had the whole normal evacuation like we practiced in training.
Right.
So.
But you kind of got to push people out of the water up to...
I had a whole other show.
Yeah.
Nothing I was ever...
Well, I mean, perhaps you had that circumstance because you were qualified to handle it. You know, you ever look at it like that?
Not so much. But
not so much. Yeah. Well, it's just crazy. And then one guy comes up to somebody in their underwear. Who was the guy that came up?
I don't know who he was.
Yeah.
Bless his heart, he thought he was going to have to swim, so he took off his clothes.
That's me. That would have been me. I just... Hi, girls, I'm swimming in. You want to meet later for drinks? Boy, it's just there aren't enough words to articulate this experience. And looking back, are we all right? We're going to be all right? We're all going to fly again? Looking forward to flying again?
I just haven't... I don't know yet.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm still getting over sitting next to you. So, you know what I mean? That's day by day.
Well, congratulations. This is the crew from Flight 1549. Did I get that right? Is it 1549? That's
yes.
what it was. Doreen Welsh, Donna Dent, Sheila Dale, Captain Sullenberger, and First Officer Jeffrey Skiles. Gentlemen, ladies, thank you very much. Nice job. We'll be right back with the Heartless Bastards, everybody.